What's up everyone, James Blonde here, back again on your screen, this time taking a look at the latest weapon from Razer. I'm talking about the Razer Naga Pro. This guy stems from the Naga Trinity, which was the first to have the 3-in-1 mouse design, but now we've got all this plus some with the Naga Pro, and we'll be taking a look at what this new mouse is packing and how I've been using it for the past couple of weeks. So first up, I wanted to mention that Razer isn't sponsoring this video, but they were nice enough to reach out and supply a unit for me to check out. So again, thanks for the opportunity, Razer. It's pretty awesome. So as I mentioned in the recap a few weeks back, I wanted to spend some time getting used to the Naga Pro before making this video, and I wanted to use it in a way that was most natural for my needs, and I can say that it's given me a lot more freedom over my previous mouse setup, to say the least. Not to mention, this is actually the first time I've tried a wireless gaming mouse, as I've always been kind of skeptical that they could keep up with a wired setup without any, trade-offs like battery or connection quality. So starting out with an overview of the mouse and what comes in the box, the Naga Pro is designed for gamers who play a variety of games and want to get the most functionality out of their mouse for each style of game they play. So of course, in order to achieve this, the Naga Pro has 3 swappable side plates for the widest range of button configurations on any one mouse. This gives it 19 plus 1 programmable buttons, which should be more than enough to suit any game out there. The 3 side plates are designed first with specific game types in mind, but I figured they could be used, however fits your needs. This one here is a 2-button configuration, which is pretty standard, used for FPS games, offering more control in the hand versus the amount of buttons that are available to you. This one's actually it's got a pretty large grip on the side for your thumb in relation to the other couple of plates. Makes sense for shooters where precision matters the most. Next, you have the new and an approved upon over the Naga Trinity, the 6-button side plate, which is actually my favorite setup just because it's super universal. It's really meant for battle royale games or MOBA games. Hell, I configured this one out for Doom Eternal with, all the new stuff they added in the game, like the Flame Belch, the Crucible, Glory Kill, Chainsaw, and whatnot. You pretty much need all 6 buttons in order to macro out everything to your mouse and rely a lot less on your keyboard for everything. Or, like me, if you're familiar with the keyboard control mappings and how they are from the default, the 6-button side plate here makes it easy to switch to particular guns. At the very least, makes it a lot easier to handle the Marauders. No question there. This plate was improved upon over the Naga Trinity 6-button design, in my opinion, in that it has all of its buttons positioned in 2 rows for quick access versus having them in a circle pattern that causes you to rest your thumb in the center of all the buttons when not using it. This new style feels just as accurate when it comes to knowing which button to press, and it helps if you're already a bit more familiar with the 2-button design style of most gaming mice. Less of a learning curve there, so that's definitely nice in my opinion. So yeah, this setup is really nice for battle royale games, of course. Here, trying out the new Spellbreak Battle Royale, I actually found it easy to map out my consumables to the buttons on the mouse, using most of them to swap to the consumable slot and using Z mapped to the top 1 button to use as the, actual use button. This is super easy to map out. I've got 4 or 5 profiles for various games that I'm playing right now, and honestly, you could figure out which configuration works best for you by making several profiles for one game. I did that with Doom Eternal. Then once you've done that, you can macro out one of the 9 available buttons on the top of the mouse in order to swap between or trigger profiles within the game. That's the kind of flexibility you get with this mouse. When playing Smite, I learned that since I'm familiar with casting abilities with the 1 through 4 keys, I would actually use the 6-button plate on the mouse to use for my consumables, as well as F1 through F4, which allows me to quickly upgrade my abilities with accuracy and on the fly without having to reach up and kind of break away from my W, A, S, and D keys. Totally like this setup better, hands down. Path of Exile is another good example. I found that using my abilities like I would traditionally on Q, W, E, R, and T, I could actually use the potions on my side buttons and have all of them available on my mouse or from the keys on the keyboard like I'm used to. It's just honestly nice having more than one spot to trigger potions or abilities once you've figured out what works best to you. Which also makes sense, for the 3rd configuration, which is a 12-button setup, primarily geared towards MMOs. Now, I could see this being used on other games, kind of like Path of Exile, of course, where you have a repeat of all your abilities and your consumables mapped out on the side buttons. This would be especially good for running Trap or Golem builds, Necromancer builds, a ton of auras, all kinds of stuff like that. On the flip side, I would personally get a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of buttons on the side just because I'm so reliant upon keyboard for even MMOs that I'd probably end up disabling quite a few or make several buttons the same so I don't accidentally trigger the wrong skills in Twitch-based or critical moments. But that's probably just because, again, I'm used to a lot of these abilities on my keyboard rather than my mouse. I can actually see content creators like myself using the 12-button setup for their creative process, mapping out buttons for Photoshop or shortcuts in video editing software, as an example. Heck, streamers could probably use it to switch scenes or views with, some buttons. Bottom line is that you can go simple or hardcore based on all your needs, all in one mouse. Now, the side plates themselves feel really nice to swap out. They fit perfectly to the side of the mouse with strong magnets that are definitely strong enough to keep it in place, but at the same time, they kind of make it easy to swap out when you need to. I mean, you could pretty much do this in between matches if you had to, and it's actually quite satisfying to feel them click into place without actually having to press them in. You've got a little lip at the bottom that you can get a nail under, basically, and they come apart together again, super smooth. Like I said, pretty satisfying. The clicks themselves are also pretty satisfying. Like me, you might not like your keyboard super clicky sounding, but that's a completely different story when it comes to a mouse. Especially when it comes to the 12-button plate, you do want some audible and tactile feedback that goes with the overall responsiveness of the mouse. I've got an old MMO mouse that has buttons on the side that are soft and spongy feeling, and it's just not a great feel. I'd much rather have buttons like the mouse buttons over buttons that would actually feel like they would be on a controller any day. The Naga Pro is wireless, offering the latest technology, but Razer calls it hyperspeed wireless, and they claim that it's 25% faster than any other wireless gaming technology, which is nice to know, but at the same time, I don't think that you're able to tell, really, since it has to meet that as fast as wired standard that any company who makes wireless gaming mice is trying to meet. But according to Razer, this mouse and its wireless sports the lowest click latency they've ever recorded, so, checks that box. Likewise, the sensor in this mouse is designed with the highest specs in the market. They're saying that it's got a 99.6% resolution accuracy, 20,000 DPI, which is crazy to feel when you set it that high. I've never really experienced that. And I mean, just the slightest movement of your finger on the mouse, you breathe on it, and it will make your cursor fly all over the screen. Not really sure who that's for. I find myself, at max setting it up to like 7,000 DPI. I'm good. I'm on the lower range. Even that is, kind of crazy. There's a ton of technology put into this sensor, which they talk about a lot on Razer's website, but an important one is the motion sync, which synchronizes the mouse movement with the exact intervals as the PC extracts the information. It's kind of like G-Sync or FreeSync on monitors, but obviously meant for your mouse. This is most likely how they're able to get that 25% faster wireless technology, if I had to guess. As someone who typically uses wired mice for gaming, I didn't really feel at all like running wireless made anything less accurate in terms of speed. The other cool thing about this mouse is that it offers you 3 different ways to connect. So you can use it Bluetooth, which gets you the best battery life going wireless. You can use the included 2.4 gigahertz wireless adapter, which is what I tested on the most, or you can use the really nicely braided, solid feeling USB cable to charge your mouse or run wired while charging. But yeah, honestly, I started to forget that I'm not using a wired mouse, with the exception of every once in a while not feeling the familiar cable drag from the edge of the desk, which is definitely not a bad thing. So yeah, now I'm spoiled. Thanks, Razer. Appreciate that. Not only that, but if you want to get super chromed out, you can also pick up the Firefly mousepad and the Razer Mouse Dock Chroma as an even more convenient way to charge your mouse rather than plugging in the USB cable after your 150-hour battery life becomes depleted. I've got to say, the battery life was something I didn't really have to worry about. Even using it on the 2.4 gigahertz wireless, which is supposed to get you 100 hours of use, I barely made a nick on the battery life, and that's after gaming for several hours That's with the chroma colors, going nuts, synchronized with my game audio, and almost at the brightest setting. So battery life is definitely not something you have to worry about on this mouse. The Naga Pro uses Razer's new Synapse 3 for configuration, which gives you a ton of control, not only over the lighting configuration and macro settings, but essentially scene settings based on other Razer products that you might have that have chroma, and the relation with one another on your desk with the Chroma Studio and Visualizer. For the most part, the basic settings for the chroma on the mouse by itself is super intuitive, but more importantly, it's easy to set up macros and multiple profiles for your mouse, including the various side plates. Very straightforward and clean UI all around. Definitely happy with Synapse 3. Oh, and another thing that's really cool is how effective the onboard profile system works. If you add your profiles to the onboard memory, of course you can then swap over to a different computer like I do quite often and switch between your profiles using the button on the bottom, which is dedicated for a profile. Or like any other button on the entire mouse, you can make the profile button do something completely different as well. I don't know, set this one up to turn off your computer or something. All in all, guys, there's not really anything I can say that's bad about this mouse. There's only a few things that would be nice to have things that some of Razer's competitors have, like, wireless charging compatibilities. But honestly, that's a pretty big luxury still, in my opinion, and it gets pretty pricey as a result. You gotta buy the mouse, which is expensive. You gotta buy the compatible wireless charging pad, and that's not cheap. I've been a pretty loyal fan of Logitech, both mice and keyboards, and I've come to like the design and ergonomics of the Logitech G Series mice and the hyper-scrolling feature that they have. Man, it's actually really hard using a mouse without that. Yeah, I've got to say. But with the overall versatility this Naga Pro has, with the side plates, I'm able to do a ton more than I can with my G502, hands down. And maybe it's just been a minute since I've used a Razer mouse, but this is definitely the most comfortable mouse that I've used from Razer, even with more buttons than you know what to do with on the side. So the 12-button side plate still seems nice in the hand. If Razer were to hurry up and add Synapse 3 to Mac, I'd have better work-to-play switchability, but maybe that'll happen sometime, making it almost perfect mouse for me, for anybody. So this guy has been available for about 3 weeks now from the time that I'm making this video. Runs with a price tag of $149.99, which isn't bad considering how versatile this mouse is. It's just about the same price as all of the top-end gaming mice out there and offers just as much, if not more tech than anything else, not to mention the swappable side plates. That's a huge thing. Again, Razer hasn't hopped on board with the wireless charging mice and mouse pads, but until that's less expensive and, more of a standard than a luxury, that definitely isn't a big deal to me, especially since I'm used to wired peripherals from the get-go. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me on this. If you like this video, you know what to do. But for now, guys, stay safe, keep your families healthy, wash your hands a bunch, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that little bell icon to get notifications, and share this video. But until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.